Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils offense and Jesus Luzardo bounced back in Game 2 in Chicago, and that's why we shouldn't have totally overreacted to Game 1.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as your host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that if you're checking us out in podcast form, and we are available wherever you get your podcasts, literally anywhere you get podcasts, you can find Locked On Phillies there. Rate and review if you do that and you enjoy what we've got going on here on YouTube. You can also watch us there. Hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, all that stuff you hear YouTube content creators talking about. You know why they do? Because 1, it helps you. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. But 2, it helps us. So it's a win-win, and it's free and easy to do. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Go ahead and check out our friends over at Game Time. The Phillies bounce back W in Chicago last night. Jesus Luzardo had a strong start by the numbers. The Phillies offense was better by the numbers. We will talk about what was good and what was bad about the game, even though it was a nice, comfortable victory that the score would tell you was a little bit closer than it actually was. We're also, with the trade deadline tomorrow, going to take a look at another team that we haven't talked about yet. Potential trade scenarios between the Phillies and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yes, the cross-state rivals of the Philadelphia Phillies could be sending some very important pieces our way before everything's all said and done tomorrow at 6 p.m. So we'll break down that, and we'll preview the Phillies matchup with the White Sox in Game 3 of the series in Chicago. I called yesterday a must-win game, and the Phillies must have listened because they took care of business. It was a nice, comfortable 6-3 victory. And you might say, well, Connor, that's still a safe situation in the ninth. That's a 3-run win against one of the worst teams in baseball. It doesn't sound comfortable. It was 6-0 in the ninth, but Daniel Robert came out of the Phillies bullpen and gave up 3 runs and got touched up a good amount. And that's a point where you say, this is why the bullpen needs to be added to. Now, Monday night's game was a point where you say, this is why the bullpen needs to be added to and the lineup needs to be added to. So it's everything, right? I'm not telling you one or the other is the only need. I'm just telling you I think the bullpen is the bigger need. Right? When the Phillies have a tough offensive night, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber are still there. When the bullpen has a tough night, yeah, you don't really have a lot to stand on there as far as that's concerned. Speaking of those guys that the Phillies offense can lean on, let's start with Kyle Schwarber because he hit his 37th home run of the year, and it was an absolute nuke. Like, there are home runs, and then there are Schwarberian home runs where he goes out there and just finds a breaking ball that's breaking in on his hands. So you pick up the spin. It's always those breaking balls that you catch well that seem to fly further. I don't know. It's not. I need some physicists to explain that to me because I'm not that smart. But there's something about that side spin that turns into backspin that allows the baseball to take off so well. And Schwarber could not have hit it more on the nose, over 440 feet. He is an absolute tank. The Phillies need to pay this guy. He's worth whatever they're willing to pay him. And people are starting to look at him in the MVP conversation. He's top 3 in odds. It's basically Shohei Ohtani and then Pete Crow Armstrong and then Kyle Schwarber, right? And Juan Soto's in there a little bit too. But like, Kyle Schwarber is in the conversation for National League MVP. He's going to get numerous votes this year. And he's also on pace to hit over 50 home runs. So great to see from him. Let's talk about the Brandon Marsh game too, because Marsh was great. Had 2 hits, one of them a 2-run home run. He had some outstanding plays out in center field. This is what is so annoying about Brandon Marsh, right? In a good and bad way. So Marsh is a guy that for probably 3 months out of the season, you go, he is an average to maybe even below average outfielder. But then there is that 3 to 4 week stretch. I'll just call it a month every year where he goes out and tears the cover off the ball and shows some pop, and the exit velo is great, and he's barreling up baseballs, and he's putting together good at-bats, and he makes some great plays because he's athletic out there in center field, and you're like, wow, well, why isn't this the guy we get all the time? That's my number one thought watching what Marsh did last night. Like, where is this every day, dude? Can't we just do this? And I know nobody's at their best every day, but he's been pretty darn good for a while now. And I'm not, before you jump on me in the comments, right? I'm not saying, maybe you don't need to upgrade in the outfield. You do, you do, you do. I don't know if Brandon Marsh can be a starting player in the outfield, in the corners, for a World Series winning team, right? I don't know if he could be a starting player in general on a World Series winning team. So I'm not saying that to say, well, if Dave Dombrowski doesn't do something to the outfield at the trade deadline, everything's all good. No. Now, what I will say is, in this moment right now, if you decide post-trade deadline that Justin Crawford's getting called up and is playing center field for you, Brandon Marsh shifts over to left field, you do whatever you're going to do with Max Kepler, Castellanos stays in right, maybe that works without an acquisition from the trade deadline to the outfield. But I'd much rather go see a guy like Taylor Ward acquired and Eugenio Suarez, and then move Bryce Harper back to the outfield. Maybe, Brent Rooker's probably off the table. You look at a lot of options. Harrison Bader in Minnesota, Ramon Laureano in Baltimore. We've talked about both of those players in trade scenarios. You can start to think about that, but I'm still looking at a major upgrade in the outfield, in addition to a major upgrade to the bullpen. But it's easy to still get out with a win when you get the starting pitcher performance you did from Jesus Luzardo. Now, you know what's funny is, if you watched the game last night, like you sat down, you observed with your eyes, you didn't just check the box score. You say, yeah, Luzardo didn't have his best stuff. He was all right. I mean, he was good, but I didn't come away from that start saying Jesus Luzardo absolutely dominated. And then you look at the stat line for him, and he went 7 innings. He only allowed 2 hits in those 7 innings. He only walked 1. No earned runs, 4 strikeouts. There were a couple of errors for the Phillies, so that may push you into believing, okay, he had more traffic on the base paths than he should have. Maybe that's why it did not feel like as strong of a performance as it was. Only 4 strikeouts, so maybe you expect the more dominance of a double-digit strikeout performance when you get 7 shut out from a guy like Jesus Luzardo. But end of the day, it could be the Dodgers, it could be the White Sox. I don't care. The Rockies or the Yankees. When you get a starting pitcher that goes out and throws 7 scoreless innings, and he did so, mind you, in only 90 pitches, that's a shake your hand. You did the job. You went above and beyond the call of duty in today's game, right? That is exactly what you're looking for from Jesus Luzardo. You don't need anything more than that. He's the number 3 pitcher in this, number 4 pitcher in this rotation right now, right? Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo. That is the pecking order of the Philadelphia Phillies rotation. And Luzardo got the job done. He looks solid with runners in scoring position. Just an absolute proving point of the theory, though. And I wish he did not do this. I understand why he had to. I wish he didn't. So he gets in trouble early. Bases loaded early for Jesus Luzardo. And with the bases loaded, you can declare whether you're going to throw from the stretch or the windup. And he decided to go from the windup. Now, why don't I like this? Well, we know he's been struggling from the stretch, and that has been an issue for him because he's changed what he's thinking about and what he's doing during stretch opportunities because of the tipping of pitches from earlier this year. It's this, all of this stuff bleeds into the next problem, right? They're just like this chronological, you can point back to, here's why he did this, here's the effect it had, here's why he's got to fix this. It's just this long sequence of events. That's kind of the term that I'm looking for there for Jesus Luzardo. But we know he struggles from the stretch, or at least he said that. I haven't been as good from the stretch. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to show weakness, I don't think. And I'm not trying to overstate this because it's not that big of a deal. But throwing from the windup with a runner on third base to me says it's a pitcher who's not confident in his ability to throw from the stretch. Like at that level, we saw Bryce Harper do it just recently with the Boston series, 2 series ago. He had the not technically straight steal of home because of his catcher's interference, but basically a straight steal of home. And looking at that, you say, wow, well, Luzardo going from the stretch, especially being a lefty, you're opening yourself up to that dude over at third base you can't really look at. Just take it all for home. And that's not ideal. And that's the risk. And when you take that risk, you are saying to the other team and other teams around baseball that are going to watch that tape, this guy ain't comfortable from the stretch. So you know what we're going to do? We're just going to find ways on base and we're going to make him uncomfortable and he'll make the mistakes. And I don't love that for Jesus Luzardo. I'd rather him be throwing from the stretch and figuring it out that way. But if this is what it takes, it's what it takes. And I can't argue with the results. I'm happy with the way the Phillies played. It should have been a 6-0 or at worst 6-1 victory for the Phils, but the score looks a little tighter because one of your backhand bullpen guys went in the blowout. And that's exactly why you wait for those situations to throw Daniel Roberts. So when he gives up the 3 runs in the 9th, you're still chilling and you can still get out of it. And credit to him, he did. But the Phillies bounced back, and it wasn't the world's greatest performance, and it wasn't this, oh, see, they're fine performance. It was just, hey, you needed to beat the White Sox. They're a team you should beat. It's not that special or anything, but it does get the job done. The Mets lost, so the Phillies are now within a half game of first place in the NL East. So all good things for the Philadelphia Phillies last night. And now we'll talk about if their cross-town competitors, or cross-state competitors, rather, in the Pittsburgh Pirates, can send some good things to the Phillies before the trade deadline's over. A lot of options with this Pirates team that we will discuss as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about game time first, though, because we've all been there. Logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you could save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Now, it's not just concert tickets. Comedy, theater, sports, like baseball. You can go watch the Phils thanks to Game Time. You can get tickets on there. I'll tell you right now, big-time series coming to Citizens Bank Park this weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Detroit Tigers are in town. They were, for a long stretch of the season, the best team in baseball. They still are one of the better teams in baseball. They've got a bunch of young, exciting players there. That's going to be a really cool series. It is. And that's down here at Citizens Bank Park. And to make matters even better, it's Alumni weekend for the Phillies. Hall of Fame weekend was last weekend. So J-Roll's going to be there. They're going to honor Ed Wade, put them on the Phillies Wall of Fame. It's a great time to get tickets. And the best way to do it is Game Time. They can give you views from your seat. They show you all the fees up front. Everything is all included in your ticket buying experience to make sure that you're good. So take the guesswork out of buying concert, show, or sports tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. Let's talk about a potential trade package or an individual trade with the Pirates. Here is why the Pirates are a super important part of this puzzle. Because Emmanuel Clase is now on this exempt list because of the gambling investigation he's on there. He will not be traded. You've got Mason Miller, who the A's don't seem like they're willing to part with. You have Yohan Duran, who God only knows what's going on with Yohan Duran or anything up in Minnesota. If you didn't see it last night, so Hug Watch is ongoing as we get close to the deadline tomorrow at 6 p.m., Thursday at 6 p.m. When guys get traded, sometimes like they get the news during the game. And when they get the news during the game, their teammates all know, right? It's not like just whispered to them, like they say it. It's part of the profession. So the teammates all hug them. They pick up their stuff. They head to the clubhouse. They get on a plane. And they go meet their new team, right? That's it. So you see the hugs and the people getting like pulled out. Now, sometimes guys will get pulled from games, and that will be a big indication that they're being traded. But for relievers who sit out in the bullpen all game, sometimes it's just, hey, these guys embraced. He grabbed his stuff and he bounced. And Yohan Duran up in Minnesota grabbed his stuff, hugged one of his teammates, and pretended to leave the bullpen just to mess with us, I guess. And not us as in Phillies fans, just like the general baseball public. They're on to us. So we're not only on Hug Watch, we're on fake Hug Watch, and everybody's losing their damn minds out here. So a lot can change. But the reason I bring up Duran in the first place, the Twins don't seem heavily willing to trade him. The Red Sox are starting to make up ground. So Aroldis Chapman is probably not going to be available. Felix Bautista is injured. So you're down to basically Mason Miller, who doesn't seem likely, Duran, who could be moved still, but is going to be expensive, and then this guy from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And that guy's name is David Bednar. Now, Bednar's had himself a pretty solid year for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's been a big-time save guy for him for a couple of seasons. Now, he had a terrible year last year, and they were trying to find a resurgence in his career this year out in Pittsburgh, and they did that. He's been really solid. He's leading the team in saves. He just gave up like his first earned run since May. He's pretty darn good, but he doesn't get the shine that other guys do because, one, he's not sitting 103 like Duran. He doesn't have the postseason experience that Duran and Clase have. He just doesn't get the coverage because he pitches out of the bullpen for the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that doesn't win very often. But rest assured, he is a top-notch reliever. Or if he's not top-notch, he's like 1B tier, right? 1A tier is Clase, Duran, Miller. 1B tier would be like Bautista, the current version of Aroldis Chapman, who might even be like 1C tier, and then David Bednar. So you can look at him and say, okay, adding him to the Phillies would give you a plus arm at the back end of the bullpen. He's been really good this year, and that would be something that you could go after. But with those other relievers falling out of the market or falling off of teams or being injured, well, that leads to the price going up, and you're going to get in a bidding war if you go after Bednar. Now, the Phillies have said they're willing to be aggressive. We'll see if they win. Somebody wins the bidding war. The bidding war is not a reason to look at a guy and be like, no, the Phillies shouldn't go after him. Because at the end of the day, this guy's going to be traded to somebody. Could be you. And you have the pieces. You got 5 top 100 minor league prospects, all right? So you can go ahead and get everything taken care of in order to make this trade happen. Just are the Phillies willing? But he may be the most reasonable, most likely high-level bullpen arm that's available. So that's a guy that you want to look for. Now, what is he going to cost? That's going to be a high-level cost now because other teams are looking for relievers too, and they're running out of options just like the Phillies are. So more people are coming to the same store to shop. It means the inventory goes down, supply down, price up. Simple economics, folks. So we'll see. I would not move Andrew Painter. I would not move Justin Crawford, probably, depending on what the rest of the market looks like. But Miller, Abel, Tait, you're looking at Arun Escobar. Those are all names that I would not hang up the phone for if it's David Bednar. Now, I might not say yes, but I would take calls on those players for that. Not all of them, just individually. But there are other options with Pittsburgh as well that you could look at. Another guy whose name's been floated out there is O'Neal Cruz, who previously played infield with them, has switched to the outfield, and has done an okay job playing at center. But he is this raw, unbelievably talented player. Like, he's just so physically gifted. There are questions about him in the locker room and him as far as the day-to-day, professionalism, like going out there, playing the game hard, making his best effort at every play, like all of that stuff. There are some questions about that. I don't watch Pirates games unless they're playing the Phillies, so I don't know. That's just stuff that I've read. And something that I will say is if you see a player on the Pirates who may not be motivated to play as hard as they can, you can blame them. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Sometimes going to a better situation is better for a player. Makes them a little bit more motivated to succeed. Playing for something. Hey, I wake up. Is that the way it should be? No. Is that the way it is sometimes in reality? Yes. So maybe that's something that you do is you look at a Bednar-Cruz combination. The problem with Cruz is he's so young and under team control and all of this that adding him to the Phillies roster along with David Bednar in the same deal is going to cost you a couple of those top 100 prospects. It is. And I don't know exactly what the asking price is going to be from Pittsburgh or how it's going to be bid up. You could get a 2-for-1, but I see the much more likely option. The Phillies go after Bednar alone. That is the guy you could go out and get and add to this team that would be your ninth inning guy, night in and night out. And then you could just go add, I don't know, maybe a Griffin Jax from Minnesota. And you can go get a Ramon Laureano from Baltimore. And next thing you know, you got your right-handed bat, your mid-level reliever, your high-leverage reliever. and your bullpen and lineup are much, much better than how you went into the trade deadline. That's the thing you got to keep an eye on, right? How do we piecemeal all of these different options together? Outside of those guys in Pittsburgh, there's not really all that much else that would fit well with the Phillies. They have a couple other bullpen arms, but Bednar is the crown jewel, and the Phillies need a crown jewel from somewhere. It's not coming from Cleveland, and it may not come from Minnesota. It's probably not coming from Sacramento or Oakland or wherever the Athletics are at any given day. And it's not coming from Baltimore because Felix Bautista's hurt. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the Pirates are a very intriguing trade partner for the Phillies that seems set on selling and have something that the Phillies want. Now, tomorrow, we're going to look at the final couple of teams. We haven't yet talked about the Athletics. We haven't yet talked about the Cardinals. Those are two teams that have packages or individual players that you could look at the Phillies being interested in. So we'll get that done on deadline day. And then it's all up to Dave Dombrowski. Hopefully he's been watching, listening to the breakdown of the potential trade packages that the Phillies could have. And let me know in the comments, would you do it? Would you go after Bednar? Is that the guy you want? Coming up next, we're going to preview Game 3 of Phillies White Sox from Chicago, Illinois. Can the Phillies win their third series in a row? Well, they better. I'm not going to call it a must-win again, but they should take care of business tonight. And I'll tell you why coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you, I'm glad we're talking about this next sponsor because I could use a 5-Hour Energy right now. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Now, this is what's a beautiful thing. I love the flavor of transfusions when I'm out on the golf course, and I play a lot of golf. But the downside of a transfusion is it's got the alcohol in it. It might make you a little sleepy. This does the complete opposite. Great taste, gives you energy, zones you in, and let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. So sometimes you're just having a day. Like I'm doing a bunch of stuff and errands and packing and always waking up early. You need that extra boost of energy. Sometimes you have an activity like we've been talking about golf. Maybe you want to go to the Phillies game, but you're like, I had a long day at work. Bang, 5-Hour Energy, knock that back. It's all good. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com. You can use our promo code Locked On Golf, GOLF, golf like the sport, to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. There's nothing better than that 5-Hour Energy. All right, let's take a look at Game 3 of the Phillies series with the White Sox, a chance for their third straight series win. And that's all you can do, right? Stack series wins. I don't need any sweeps. I don't. And we had this conversation earlier on in the year when the Phillies were having trouble sweeping teams. Then they got hot, got cold, got hot, got cold, lukewarm, all kinds of stuff. It's been a long season. They're over 100 games in. We're starting to get to the point now at 107 games completed that you start to look at the final stretch. And when you play beatable opponents, you got to take advantage. So the Phillies need to win today's game. I'm not going to call it like this must win like I did Tuesday, but the reason why I'm not going to call it that is because of who's on the mound. Taijuan Walker throws for the Phillies. And actually, we've just had a change for the White Sox. Tyler Alexander is going to the mound. Previously, it was going to be Adrian Hauser. But I guess they've just made the switch to have Tyler Alexander. Let me see if Adrian Hauser was traded while we recorded this podcast, because that is a quick turnaround when it comes to a change in pitching. And Adrian Hauser had been one of the White Sox best arms. So let's see if he was traded real quick. Let's go to the handy-dandy Twitter sphere. And while we're doing that, though, this does actually get a little bit easier for the Philadelphia Phillies without Adrian Hauser. Let's see. Yeah, no, I don't see anything about him getting traded. Wow, maybe they just pulled him because there is a trade in the works. Whatever the case may be, Hauser does not go for the White Sox, and instead it's 4.36 ERA Tyler Alexander, which should make you feel even better. Taijuan Walker on the mound, it is what it is. But it's weird, right? The Phillies are minus 160 on the money line. But the ESPN analytics has them only a 44.2% chance to win. So the analytics say they're going to lose. Vegas says they're going to win. And who do you trust more? Well, it might be who you trust more between a pitching matchup of not the best arms. But Walker was pretty darn solid after first two inning home runs in New York. I was at that game. I thought he was going to ruin the first day of my vacation up there to New York to watch the team play. And luckily, he's settled in. And this is a much weaker lineup than what he saw in New York. So maybe we'll see a boost of confidence from Taijuan Walker. By the way, I might have said tonight earlier. It's a 2:10 p.m. game, so it is coming up this afternoon. So it'll get on us pretty quickly there. The Phillies have their lineup out already. Trey Turner leading off. Kyle Schwarber DHing, batting second. Bryce Harper batting third, first base. Nick Castellanos cleanup, right field. Marsh batting fifth. Kepler batting sixth. Kemp batting seventh. Stott batting eighth. I'm sure you can guess Rafael Marchand behind the dish because JT had not been listed yet. It is a lefty on the mound, and Brandon Marsh is batting fifth. Max Kepler, sixth. Bryson Stott, eighth. This is a weird lineup for having a lefty on the mound, and maybe that's a last-minute change that they were not prepared for, and this was the lineup they submitted to face off against Adrian Hauser. So be prepared for that to maybe change. I'm recording this at like 11:30 right now, so that could flip-flop before the game starts based on the pitching change that apparently just came down. But whatever the case may be, the Phillies, they've got the top half of the lineup rolling, and Marsh has been swinging it pretty well as well. I told you yesterday on the show, take a look at Kyle Schwarber to hit another one. I feel like I said Trey Turner, and he almost hit one out in his first at bat, but nothing was carrying out the left field. If you're thinking a righty is going to hit a home run to left field in this series, it just doesn't seem possible there. Even though the White Sox did have one go out in the ninth inning, that ball was torched off of Daniel Robert. It's very hard to hit a ball out of left field up there at guaranteed rate field. And the Phillies showed that. Otto Kemp had one that probably could have gone. Trey Turner had one that probably could have gone, and they just stopped carrying. So we'll see. Now, if I had to pick who's going to go yard today, lefty, still pick Kyle Schwarber. Castellanos could get one. He's probably relatively familiar with that stadium up there, having been in that part of the country for multiple teams at previous stops in his career. So maybe he feels comfortable hitting there. We will see. But I would look at Schwarber again. I would look at Castellanos again. And these guys have seen Alexander at least a little bit. Everybody but Otto Kemp has seen him at least once. Now, Turner's 0 for 3 career. Schwarber, 3 for 7 with 2 home runs. And that's part of the reason I'm picking Schwarber. So look for another Schwarber. Bryce Harper, 0 for 2. Castellanos, 2 for 6. Marsh, 1 for 4. Kepler, 3 for 10. Stott, 0 for 3. Marchand, 0 for 1. So at least they have a little bit of experience against Alexander. Now, with Walker, a lot of these guys on the White Sox have not seen him. He's seen 4 guys in this White Sox lineup. Dockman has an 0 for 8 career record against him. Doesn't see him well. Benintendi, 1 for 6. Doesn't see him well. Vargas, 0 for 3. Small sample size. Robert, 1 for 3. Small sample size. But none of these guys really seem to see him all that well that have seen him, and the other guys can't. Or haven't, I should say. So I would expect the Phillies to win this game. And I expect the offense to continue what they did. Like, the Phillies scored 2 of their 6 runs on sacrifice flies, and the other 2 came on 2 swings. The other 4 came on 2 swings, 2 2-run home runs, right? They can get scoring in bunches done when they drive the ball like they have been lately. New York, last night in Chicago, the end of the series against Boston. You're seeing more good than bad from the Phillies offense right now, and they're going to need probably another, 4 or 5 runs today to cover what Taijuan Walker could give up. I said yesterday 5 should win it. 4 would have won it, but hey, not a bad guess by me. I'm going to go 5 or 6 actually for Taijuan Walker today is what I think is needed for them to win this game. And here's the thing. Once this is done, well, tomorrow the Phils have an off day. So watch this game this afternoon, and then every single thing that's going to be on our mind is going to be the trade deadline day tomorrow, the make or break point of the Phillies season for Dave Dombrowski, and maybe for this fan base and this team in general. This may be where a World Series winner is made between now and 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 31st. So buckle up, folks. Hug watch, fake hug watch, All of it will be covered on Locked On Phillies. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.